The Winnebago County Board is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us.
Okay, if we could go ahead and reconvene into session. So what we'll do next, now that all the committees have had an opportunity to meet, I'll call on the designated committee chairmen who were just elected as an officer to please give the officers for each designated committee. And we'll start with the Aviation Committee. Supervisor Gabbard.
Our committee chose Gabbard for chairman, Harold Singstock for vice chairman, and Larry Lautenschlager for secretary.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. And next we'll move to Facilities and Property Management Committee. Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Facilities chose Robert Keller as chairman, Tom Egan as vice chairman, and Bill Ringman as secretary.
Thank you, Supervisor Keller. And next we'll move to the Highway Committee. Supervisor Robel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken Robel is chairman, David Albright vice chair, Bob Warnke secretary, and Chuck Farley and Tom Egan.
Thank you, Supervisor Robel. Next we'll move to the Information Systems Committee, and I'll call on Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We chose myself, Wojciechowski, for chair, Steve Lenz for vice chair, and Jesse Wallen for secretary.
Thank you, Supervisor Wojciechowski. Next, we'll move to the Judiciary and Public Safety, and after that, we will do the Emergency Management Committee. So first, the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, Supervisor Wingren.
Bill Wingren, chair, Tom Ellis, vice chair, Larry Smith, secretary.
Thank you, Supervisor Wingren. Next, we'll move to the Emergency Management Committee, and for that, I'll call on Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Eisen, chairman, Supervisor Smith, vice chairman, and Supervisor Hogan, secretary.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Next, we'll move to the Land Conservation Committee. I'll call on Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Myself as chair, the vice chair for this term will be Supervisor Schneider, and the recording secretary for this term will be Supervisor Binder.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari. Next, we'll move to the Parkview Health Center Committee, and I'll call on Supervisor Ellis.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, Tom Ellis. Vice Chair, Mary Beth Gabbard. Secretary, Larry Lautenschlager.
Thank you, Supervisor Ellis. Next, we'll move to the Parks and Recreation Committee, and for that, I'll call on Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman will be Jerry Finch. Vice Chair will be Tom Konetsky. And secretary will be Mike Norton.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Next, we'll move to the Personnel and Finance Committee, and for that, I'll call on Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For Chair, Joel Rasmussen. Vice Chair, Harold Singstock. Secretary, Vicki Shorsey.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Next, we'll move to the Planning and Zoning Committee. For that, I'll call on Supervisor Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Myself as chairman, vice chairman is Supervisor Gabbard, and secretary is Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Egan. And finally, the UW Extension and Agricultural Committee. I will call on Supervisor Borchardt.
Okay.
In the absence of the elected chair, I'll call on the Vice Chairman.
Thank you.
Chairman will be Tom Schneider, vice chair will be Steve Binder, secretary will be Karen Pollers.
Thank you. And that completes the committee selection of officers. Thank you all for taking the time to do so. So that actually completes our agenda prior to the resolution. So we'll move on to the resolutions. There are 15 of them tonight. First resolution is resolution number 007-042018. Commendation for Donald O. Crew. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for Resolution 007-04-2018. Donald Krug, RN Neighborhood Supervisor for Woodside 1 and Prairie Side 1, retired from Parkview Health Center on April 1st, 2018, after 24 years with Winnebago County. Don has been a key member of the nursing management team and was an intricate part of onboarding and providing educational growth to new management leaders. As a knowledgeable and experienced nurse manager, Don oversaw the acute care and short-stay resident populations and took pride in ensuring a successful outcome for residents as they discharged back into the community from Parkview Health Center. We appreciate all of the dedication and hard work he has invested to the Parkview staff and residents. Join me in wishing Don a wonderful retirement.
Okay, there was a motion and a second. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 008-042018, disallow claim of Wisconsin Public Service. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you. Move for resolution number 008-04-2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We'll do a voice vote again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 009-042018, request authority to apply to American Transmission Company for a tree planting grant. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 009-402018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? And we'll do a voice vote again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to resolution number 010-042018, authorize the establishment of an Oshkosh Area Community Foundation pass-through fund to facilitate the installation of the historic Winnebago County Fairgrounds entry arch and gates with surrounding landscapes. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 010-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Supervisor Norton.
I just wanted to ask, there should be a correction, shouldn't vote required for passage be majority vote, since we're just establishing an account and we're not actually spending money or allocating any money to it?
Well, I think that we're doing it that way because that gets rid of the need to come back here and ask for vote on the appropriation of it. If they get the grant, then it's already appropriated. Do you understand? So instead of having a resolution now and 2 months from now, you just do it now and you approve it by 2/3 vote if the money is provided to the county. You could do it the other way if you want and come back and spend 5 minutes on it the next time around.
Okay. Thank you, Corporation Counsel. Thank you, Supervisor Norton. Supervisor Shorsey.
First of all, question, I guess, for Supervisor Fink. Is this the first fund that is established in the foundation for Winnebago County and especially for the parks?
Well, it's actually, were you born and raised here? No, I'm serious. I'm not trying to be nasty. All right. Back in the old park, they had the arch. And when we moved from there to here, where they are now, then the arch was taken down, and now we're finally getting enough stuff to bring it back.
Yeah, that's not my question. The question is about if we have another fund.
Supervisor Shorsey, if you could please try to speak in the mic, just so we can do the best we can. So
Okay,
folks can-
sorry, I didn't think they were working. The question is about the fund itself. And my question is, if we do not already have a broader fund to receive money for this type of, for specific projects like this, we might want to consider doing a broader fund with the community foundation. So for future park projects, that would already be established and the process underway.
Okay, Rob's right behind us, so he can give you any information you want on it, all right?
I can't address whether you can do a broad scope fund like that. If we're interested, we can. In the past, we've done a couple of these, but that is an interesting way to go about doing it. We're more familiar with this more specific route, though.
So I would recommend that we do talk to them about establishing a permanent fund for at least Parks and Recreation in Winnebago County. And we did that for the town of Algoma, so they have, that was for a campaign, but, so there might be some other configuration. But, so you have something that is permanent, so when you're promoting giving, or if people just want to give for a memorial or some other purpose, that they can do that.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it too much, but right now, some of the benefit of this is that I think some of their marketing of this project is geared around a specific item, whereas if it's broad, it might not get so much exposure. But I can see an advantage in that, kind of a general fund that might come into play. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for Supervisor Shorsley. I'll call on Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a photograph so this county board can consider whether they really want to reinstall it? Seems to me if you are asking us to set up a fund to put this historic item back up, we ought to be able to see what we're going to vote on.
There is a rendering that we have done up, sorry for the oversight, that would be appropriate to have included in it. We have it engineered. It's going on a site that sits right at the front entrance of the Expo Center main entrance. It'll be an arc over the top of it with bricks on either side. Actually, it is premised on trying to resemble the old structure as much as we can. But we do have a rendering available if you'd like to see it.
Well, could you present that to the board? I think that might be an appropriate thing to do before we authorize a fund to collect it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Moving on to Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering, Mr. Chairman, if you could remind supervisors, please, to address all comments to you, because especially tonight without the microphones working well, when we turn our heads and look at somebody else, nobody can hear. So all comments are supposed to be directed to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a fair point. And just so everyone's clear, that unfortunately the amplifier has failed for us tonight. I'm using a separate mic that's unrelated. That's why you can hear me. So if you can please try to talk directly into the mic forward as well. And then also the camera can see you most directly as well. So thank you for that reminder, Supervisor Powers. Supervisor Binder.
I would just like to say, we've been working on this project for like 2 years. We were selling buttons for $1. I think we sold around 800 of them. The total cost of this project is around $5,000. So it's hard to believe that it's taken us 2 years to erect the arch. I can remember when I was young, going to the racetrack there, going to the fair, seeing that arch. It's like a piece of the fair's history. And for $5,000 in 2 years, we still don't have it up. So I would ask everybody to vote for this, and let's try to get this up before the fair in 2019.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do a voice vote on this as well. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to resolution number 011-042018. Authorize a transfer of $245,000 from the Winnebago County Property and Liability Insurance Fund to the Winnebago County Park Capital Outlay Account in the general fund for the purpose of rebuilding the community park soccer shelter. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 011-042018.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question in respect to this shelter. I see from the resolution that there was a shelter that was damaged and removed, and that this is the insurance payment for that claim on that loss. Now, my question is a shelter needed? Now, you're gonna put up a shelter, but I think it may be appropriate question to ask and to get a response whether this is needed. What's the frequency of use of that facility? What's the volume of the use? Is this something that's need, or is it a want?
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. I'll call on Supervisor Finch, who I think can answer your question.
Well,
It's definitely needed. I mean, Supervisor Eisen, have you ever been out there doing a soccer tournament?
Supervisor Finch, let's try to keep the comments direct to the body rather than going back and forth.
If anybody's ever been to a soccer tournament, you'll notice that almost all of them are taken care of. You have some soccer, I forget the name of it, really called associates, that they actually spend money to build and make these. So it's useful and it's needed. That's about all I can say. Now, if you want more information.
Anybody who wants more information, feel free to give Rob a talk to. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Supervisor Binder.
I'd just like to say, years ago, Oshkosh Youth Soccer actually did a fundraiser and built that shelter, and they're basically rebuilding the shelter and building a separate building, so they'll keep their soccer equipment and lawnmowers to cut the soccer fields in that building. Now that building will be able to be used for basically United Soccer, for the other festivals that are there. It has a kitchen, so it actually has many purposes, and is probably the best shelter that the county parks actually has. And yes, it is very necessary, and it will be well used.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Supervisor Lautenschlager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Supervisor Binder. I mean, this is the main shelter that is by the soccer fields. This is a shelter that they use, like Supervisor Binder said, for their concessions, for their kitchen, stuff like this. This isn't a want. This is definitely a need. It's always been there. It got arson. We got insurance. We need to rebuild this one because it's not just a shelter out in the boonies somewhere. This is the major shelter by the soccer fields. It's needed.
Thank you, Supervisor Lautenschlager. Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along with the question that I asked on the need, is there any other alternative to rebuilding this back where it was? Has that been looked into?
Well, as far as an alternative, I'm not real clear. As far as a different type of structure?
Well, perhaps something that would be placed close to other facilities that are used, a facility that can service a greater area. I'm not familiar with the shelter that was lost or the volume of use.
It is a good question. We had considered that, but the insurance claim is set at an amount that is a rebuild of that structure. There is no variations that can be done to it, so there's...
I can understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Supervisor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As somebody that has played OYSC soccer since 1986 and will have a daughter starting soccer this next week, this shelter is used for children, getting your kids ready. When it's raining out, there's a lot of different uses for the shelter, and I would strongly ask that we support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Buck. Supervisor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm planning on supporting this. It's coming from a insurance reimbursement payment that we received. It's not like we're taking $245,000 out of somebody's pocket. It came from insurance that we paid for and we've been reimbursed for. So I think we'd be crazy to leave it sitting on the table. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Supervisor Powers. You are correct, there is another resolution coming up with a smaller amount that's also related. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, given the discussion, we'll do this by a roll call vote. So all those in favor, vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Motion carries 35-0. Moving on down to the next resolution, resolution number 012-042-018. Appropriate the transfer of $25,000 from the Winnebago County General Fund Undesignated Fund Balance Account to the Winnebago County Park Capital Outlay Account. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 012-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is to Rob Way, if you could answer it for me. I assume you've gotten bids on this?
Not bids, but estimates.
Okay. My focus, is this going to be enough money? Are you
Well, I did go in
all
for,
this, or-
well, I'd gone into a P&F and made a request for additional money, but this was brought down to the amount of what is considered the contingency.
Okay, so you anticipate that you'll have enough money with the insurance and this to complete the project?
I had asked for a little bit more, but this could cover it, yes.
How much more would you ask for?
I'd gone in asking for 85,000.
85?
Yeah, that was coming from a consultant that had done some research, contacting plumbing and electrical contractors, and they felt that the amount is likely to exceed the $245,000.
Which means we'll probably be coming back and asking for that additional amount. Mr. Chairman, I'll move to amend this number from 25,000 to 50,000.
Second. There's a motion and a second to amend the amount from 25,000
to 50.
To 50,000. So that change will actually be in two places that I see. So that would be in the title. It would say 25,000 to 50,000. And then that also would be on line item 18, 25,000 to 50,000. And then actually on line item 23, it would change the 25,000 to 50,000. So there was a motion and a second. Discussion in regards to the amendment specifically. Supervisor Egan on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have as much problem with this till right now when I heard he asked for 85,000 and it was knocked down to 25,000. That's an awful downfall, and if they thought they could get away with 25,000, why all of a sudden are we jumping that much up? That's an awful lot. You're still, in that case, you're still $35,000 off from what they ask. Somebody isn't either getting the bids right, or somebody isn't talking to the right contractors or something, because that's an awful lot, and I do not plan to support the 50,000. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Egan. We'll call on you after Supervisor Rasmussen. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd just explain how this went about in P&F committee. One one of the contractor who gave them the 245,000 number, then evidently wasn't going to put a bid for that same amount, which we thought was kind of odd. You would come back and bid at the same amount. So we figured if we approved 85,000, that's public record, that just tells the contractor, now you can come in and bid it for way more than what you gave us the estimate, which was what the insurance was based on. So that's why we dropped it to 25 to cover a 10% contingency, which is normal in these situations. That would get them started. If the bids came in higher, then we can have that discussion again next month.
Thank you, Supervisor Rassman. Supervisor Fari and then Supervisor Singstock.
For the body, the number 50,000 simply comes as a medium price. If the director of that department thought 85 would be adequate or more than adequate, however, the committee reduced it to 25, and I understand their reasoning for that. It seems to me that 50 is a logical number in between to assure that the project is completed.
Thank you, Supervisor Fari. Supervisor Singstock on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. During a discussion of P&F committee, there was agreement made that facilities was going to review this project. Was it done?
Director Way?
The information has been shared with Facilities Director. As far as the review,
What was your response? I didn't hear it.
the information regarding the project to date, as far as the drawings and so forth, have been shared with the Facilities Director.
Well, what did facilities recommend? Did they have a problem with the 25,000?
I don't know that was the question at the time. It's my understanding that Facilities would be consulted as part of the project as it proceeded.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Singstock. Supervisor Binder.
I guess I'd just like to say that it was hard to get anybody to even give us an estimate on this project. We needed 2 estimates for the insurance company to pay, and we got one estimate for $245,000, and the other estimate was well over $300,000. So the insurance company took the lowest estimate. So there's no guarantee that anybody's going to build it for $245,000. Nobody wants to build on it. The big contractors don't want to mess around with basically $450,000. Rob tried to get basically bids from basically several different construction companies, and they wouldn't even come out to bid it. They said they're too busy and it's too small a project for them. So do I really think we're going to be able to build this for $25,000 more? No. I think it's going to come in right around $300,000. The other bid, I believe, was $340 something. So either we can come back next month for more money, or we can basically approve $50,000 today, and hopefully we can build it for $295,000.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Seeing no other discussion, we'll go to a roll call vote on the amendment. So just to clarify, the amendment is to change from 25,000 to 50,000, both in the title, line item 18, and line item 23. Vote aye if you approve, vote nay if you don't. And that motion carries 23 to 12. So, we're now on the resolution as amended. Any discussion on the resolution as amended? Okay, we'll go to a roll call vote to this as well. Vote aye if you approve, as amended. Vote no if you don't. That motion carries 29 to 6. Moving on down to the next resolution. Resolution number 013-042018. Authorize execution of a ground lease agreement between Winnebago County and Oshkosh Youth Soccer Club. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution number 013-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, so seeing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the next resolution. Resolution number 014-042018. Authorize the Public Health Department to accept grant funds or adjustments from 6 separate grant programs totaling $113,166 and appropriate the funds to program expenses. I'll call on Vice Chairman Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of resolution number 014-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the next resolution. Resolution number 015-042-018. Amend the table of organization for the Winnebago County Health Department. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for resolution 015-04-2018. Or was that 14? I'm sorry, 14.
That is 015. Correct?
Okay, I had it right the first time. Thank you.
Correct. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the next resolution. Resolution number 016-042018. Amend the table of organization for the Winnebago County Highway Department and authorize adjustment of labor costs with corresponding revenues. Supervisor Roble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for the approval of resolution 016-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a pretty complex resolution that is dealing with multiple issues, but the issue that I have a problem with is perhaps I don't understand it, and that's why I'm making this inquiry. I would like to refer to basically the bottom line, and the bottom line is on the back page where the money, which is the $227,401, is going to come from, or at least the difference that's needed, which is $118,000 under the heading revenue. It's the last paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the bottom. It says revenue. And it says that for all these expenses, for the $118,000 that says sufficient budget already exists, the expenses are coming from what appears to be a increase from 63,000 to 97,000, or around a $34,000 increase in revenue from the state road maintenance agreement, and an increase of 24,000 that'll come from the town and other government revenue, and an increase of 30,000 coming from capital improvements projects, and an increase of 30,000 from county maintenance. Now, how can we say that the towns are going to give us an extra $24,000 when they've already established their budgets. I just don't understand the fiscal analysis of this item.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Supervisor Keller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of have the same question that Supervisor Eisen had, and I'm hoping he will get an answer to that. But in addition to that, I see where our highway commissioner is trying to make improvements in the structure of the highway department. He's going to improve morale. He's going to have less turnover. He's going to improve efficiency. He's going to improve the department's effectiveness. Those are all subjective ideas. If he's going to be spending $350,000 more on an annual basis that he did in the past, I would hope that there would be some measurable benefits to that. And just to offer some suggestions, maybe he could give us the additional miles of road maintenance that he would be able to complete. The reduction in cost per mile of road maintenance because of his efficiencies. An estimate of reduction in the amount of time it takes to clear the roads of snow. Maybe an improvement in the average median PASER rating for our highways. I don't know that he has that data. I don't know that he even would feel that it'd be something he could get. But I would just like to have his opinion on whether he can actually come up with some type of measurable improvement if he spends an extra $350,000.
Thank you, Supervisor Keller. Call on the Highway Commissioner.
Yeah, certainly there are ways to track our costs on our highway system. How it is tied directly to this particular resolution will be somewhat difficult because some of those quantifying measurements are subjective to funding appropriated by the county board, weather, work by others. So there's some subjective information, but I think as a whole, I could provide to the county board, over a period of time, what our average costs are for highway maintenance type activities, such as crack filling, chip sealing, and paving, those types of activities. Those certainly could be quantified and tracked over time. But to answer specifically to your question, how this would tie, how the three new supervisors and an engineering technician would tie directly to those is difficult to say.
Thank you. Any other questions, Supervisor Keller?
No, I think Supervisor Eisen's question did not get an answer yet.
Okay. Supervisor Eisen, I want to give you the opportunity, if he didn't answer your question, do you want to restate it for him?
Well, yes. I don't understand. This is supposed to be a revenue neutral change. And the fiscal analysis says that there's $118,000 that's going to be attributed to an increase in revenue from these changes. Now, let me just state exactly the problem. The problem is that as I read this fiscal analysis, it says to me that there's going to be an increase in revenue coming from 5 sources. And there's no way that we could guarantee that that increase in revenue is going to come from those 5 sources. In other words, are we going to charge the state road maintenance program an extra $34,000 so that we can balance our change? Are we going to send an extra $24,000 bill to the towns so that we can balance this as revenue neutral? I guess suppose you can get an extra $4,000 from the other county departments, and where's that extra $30,000 coming from increasing the capital improvements projects from a $54,000 expense to an $83,000 or a $54,000 revenue to a $83,000 revenue? I just believe the bottom line is that this should be returned to the committee and it should be unbundled. I think what's happened here is the highway department wants to keep their employees. They seem to have a high level of turnover, and they see that there's a problem with supervision as presently structured, and they need to change. But this particular, I think the bottom line is that this resolution is defective because it's trying to accomplish multiple objectives, and as a consequence, it has mixed oranges and apples. So I make a motion to return this to the committee to unbundle it and bring a simpler resolution that we can understand. I can't understand it.
Thank you, Supervisor Risen. So there is a motion to refer it back to the Highway Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
So there's a second. In discussion in regards to referring it back to the Highway Committee specifically. I'll call on Supervisor Binder on the motion to refer back to the Highway Committee.
Yes, I think it would be good to actually refer it back to the Highway Committee. I couldn't support it the way it stands today. I could support an assistant commissioner, but I worked for the Highway Department for 24 years. I went through 3 different commissioners and 4 road supervisors, and they all basically functioned well with the personnel. Joe Rasmussen was my supervisor. He did an excellent job. He didn't complain about the hours that he worked. I mean, a road supervisor works 50 hours a week. That's 2,600 hours a year. A normal work person works 2,080 hours a year. It is a strenuous job, but you know that when you take it. I think it should go back to the committee, and they should reassess what they really need. And this is a 100% increase in their personnel. The bridge supervisor only basically supervises bridge tenders 6 months out of the year. In the winter, there are no bridges opening. So we're going to increase a position there. What are they both going to do all winter?
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Supervisor Gabbard on the motion to refer back to committee.
Yes, I'd like it to be referred back for several reasons. First of all, I agree with Supervisor Binder. That department's worked well in the past. I'm a town resident. We have the county do a lot of our town work. And it was fine. We always have a form that we fill out in the beginning of the year, how much we're going to spend with the county for roads. And we don't go along halfway through the year and say, we're going to toss you another $20,000 because we've got that somewhere. We don't have it somewhere. The other thing is, last month we had a resolution for a new employee for IS, which I was against because it came in after the budget. And I thought, why didn't it come at budget time? And it was defeated. So now I'm looking at this, seeing 4 new employees. I can't really vote for this. That's why I'd like it to go back to committee, because now we look like we're adding 4 more jobs. And IS didn't get the job that they want, the position filled that they wanted, but we're supposed to fill the highway department. Here's my other scenario. I know there's a lot of turmoil out there, and I think the turmoil could be fixed. And it maybe could be fixed by giving the people who are working out there more incentive to stay with us by doing some kind of a salary increase for these people. They aren't leaving because they don't like working there. So I don't think this is going to resolve a lot of things with the people that actually go out and work on the roads. So I'm in favor of tossing this back to the committee and having them regroup. And realize the 118 is for the rest of 2018. When we start 2019, in the new budget, we're going to have a lot more money than 118,000 coming from the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gabbard. Supervisor Joyce, on the motion to refer back to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to state that I agree with Supervisor Gaber. The committee has to figure out how they're going to fund these additional positions. And speaking for the towns that are in my district, we don't have any additional funds for our road budgets to help make up the difference. So I believe it would be best referred to committee.
Thank you, Supervisor Joyce. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple things on this. As Supervisor Binder said, I did hold that position, for those that don't know that, for quite a while before I retired. And when Supervisor Gabbard brought up about the wages, just a little information on wages, how we got to this point, or not how we got to this point, but why did we get to this point? When I retired 10 years ago, I was making $7,000 more than what the control point is now for that position. And what the control point is for that position right now, I was making in 2004. So that's how much, for whatever reason, those salaries have dropped. And, you know, two good people that were trained and worked their way up to get into that position left. And that's kind of one of the reasons why. So just a little information how we got to this point. It was a lot of hours. The sheet in there said 300 to 400 extra hours a year. It was more like 600 to 800 hours. It was a lot of hours. But in their defense, things have changed a lot since I left. There's a lot more freeway system. A lot of the hours are in winter. Two of us did manage the place for 24/7. It's hard to do that now because you can't work separate shifts. They just need more people. We tried back then already to, our foremen at that time were in the union. We tried to get some of our foremen out of the union into management. That was hard to do. We did do that with one position at that time. So that's kind of the background on where this is at. I'm sure the commissioner can give more thought to that on what he has now. I'm not there. I haven't been there for 10 years, but just a little background on how we got to this point.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Supervisor Keller.
I am not in support of sending this back to committee. I believe it's already been through the Highway Committee. I would expect that the Highway Committee, which is much closer to the situation than we are as a full board, and that is why they have a Highway Committee, has already researched this and talked about different ideas and different options. I also would expect the Personnel and Finance Committee has looked at the numbers and have felt that they are comfortable because they've also brought this forward. I think sending it back to committee would just make the committee say, well, okay, what are we supposed to do now? If we want to send it back to committee, we should tell them what we want changed. I haven't heard anyone say what we want changed. So what direction are we giving these committees? We're not giving them any. I do not support sending it back to committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Keller. Vice Chairman Egan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Supervisor Keller. We went through, and matter of fact, we went with it 2 months. We went back and forth. We first studied it, and then the commissioner was gone. We didn't go along with that. We got some of his help in. We didn't go along with that. So this has been studied quite a bit. I can tell you right now, all the highway isn't on the same page here, that we don't necessarily agree with everything that's going on. Like Supervisor Rasmussen said, you've got to remember that they've got more like I-41 and all that out there. Originally, it was going to be, and I think this is wrong, this highway maintenance supervisor, you've got current 0. We should have 2, shouldn't we, at least? And you just want to add 1 more?
No, we currently don't have highway maintenance supervisor
What
positions.
is Mr. Groth and some of them? What do you consider them?
They're highway superintendents.
Okay, superintendents, but you just want to add 1 more of them, correct? Is what it actually amounts to? Just
No,
different
it's-
wording is what you're doing?
No, the 2 superintendents will remain as is. This is adding 3 supervisory positions below them, between them and the field staff.
And I know this is getting off base, but what's the difference between equipment operator 2 and equipment operator 1 then? Because we agreed that all 5 of the foremen were going to stay.
equipment operator ones are the employees that operate everything but the heavy yellow equipment, basically the excavators and the graders, the heavy equipment.
But there's still going to be 5 foremen, but you just renamed them, is that what you're telling us now?
Well, in the Highway Committee, we agreed that our goal was to promote 3 of the foremen into the new supervisory roles, and the other two foreman positions would remain and be converted into operator 1 or 2 positions through attrition.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Reed. Supervisor Binder.
I guess I'd just like to state that we're basically making a 100% increase in the management in the highway department if we pass this. They currently have 4 supervisors, and we're gonna have 8. I can't believe that they're each working basically the work of 2 people, and we're paying them for 1. You know, the last person that left went to Waupaca County because he got $5,000 more than we were willing to pay him. We never offered him any more money. I asked Mr. Harris why we don't try to basically match what they're leaving for, and he said Winnebago County is not in a position of negotiating. When they tell us they're leaving, they're leaving. I just can't see putting 4 people on. How do we know it's going to require 4? An assistant commissioner could oversee the 2 road superintendents. You're going to eliminate the foreman. You're going to send a paving crew out there without a paving foreman? That's $3 million worth of paving a year we do, and we're not even going to have a paving foreman. He's just going to go out there with a group leader. I just can't believe, as being good stewards of the county's money, that we can send a paving crew out to spend $3 million in the summer and not have a paving foreman.
Thank you, Supervisor Binder. Supervisor Shorsey, if we can try to keep it on the specific motion to refer it back to committee. And then if it passes or fails, that'll dictate how much other discussion we'd have on the actual resolution. On the motion to refer back to committee.
We'll see. It's
Carry forward, thank you.
It's kind of one of those things I'm known for already. And that is, as I listen to this discussion, it sounds like this is a great opportunity to do a lean process improvement in this area with this department, and to really take apart what is currently happening and then defining what should be happening in future state. And at the same time, working with personnel to make sure that people are being paid properly, and then have us look at the whole picture. And it is it's an excellent process, and it will help a great deal get things on track.
Thank you, Supervisor Shorsey. There being no further discussion, then we will go to a vote. We'll do a roll call vote. And just to clarify, this is on the referral back to the committee. Vote aye if you recommend referring back to the committee. Vote nay if you don't. Supervisor Singstuck? And that motion carries 21-14, so that resolution is referred back to the Highway Committee. Moving on to the next resolution. Resolution number 017-042018. Appropriate an additional $50,000 to the Facilities Courthouse Relocation Project from General Fund Contingency Account. Supervisor Keller.
I move approval of resolution 017-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Then we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the next resolution, which is actually an ordinance. Ordinance number 018-042018. Amend section 21.05, parent 3, parent E, parent G of the General Code of Winnebago County, agricultural land rates for Whitman Regional Airport to comply with FAA grant assurances. Supervisor Gabbard.
I make a motion to accept ordinance number 018-042-018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next resolution is number 019-042-018. Authorize the Winnebago County Clerk to publish a notice of referendum regarding the enactment of proposed legislation that closes, quote, dark store loopholes. Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of resolution number 019-014-2018.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Supervisor Norton.
Well, I just wanted to add to what, I got information from the treasurer. I wanted to add, I agree what the person from the city of Oshkosh talked about this, and also what the county executive talked about. What I got from the county treasurer is how much this has hurt the various tax entities. The total is $347,000, $765.58, and this is how it's broken down, where these municipalities had to pay back because of this loophole. It costs the state $2,312. Okay, that's not much. It costs the county, our own selves, we had to pay back $70,000, $828.01. It cost municipalities, and I believe it affected both the city of Oshkosh and I believe the city of Neenah because of the quick trip, $140,000, $685.05. School districts, $112,000, $711. And tech school, $21,227,000. And the point being is they have to find, if they are money taken away from them, they have to find and replace that money. And also in the future, they're going to have to find ways to get the money, get the tax money to fund their programs. And they're going to have to increase, maybe, the levy on these different entities. We have to do something now, because while Quick Trip and Walgreens are done in this county, the fear is other big stores can do it, dark store, anyway, Best Buy, Yonkers, whatever, they could do it because they'll take advantage of this. You know, an interesting thing, and the reason why I think a referendum should be done, because I'm just following the lead of what Outagamie County did, is that we have to give the signal to our state legislature something has to be done. There was legislation, bipartisan legislation, the last session. We had some of our area representatives, Gordon Hintz, Frank Straw, who supported it, but it didn't go because the state Senate president, even though he was a sponsor of the legislation, didn't put up for a vote. So I think if this county and other counties do this, and I would hope this will be sent to all counties, have this as a referendum on the November ballot, something will be done. That's why I encourage everyone to put this on the ballot.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My suggestion would be that when we publish this, we publish it as a flag on our county website and not spend money in newspapers, which that many people read.
Thank you, Supervisor Smith. Supervisor Deffernan.
I'm looking at this, I'm reading this question here, and you know, I have to say that I disagree with a lot of it. Perhaps, you know, businesses are assessed a little bit differently than residential properties, but you know, when a residential property gets assessed, what they typically do is they do comparables of similar properties that are for sale, and those properties are empty. There's you don't necessarily assess them with, you know, something that's inside the store. You assess them as if they were to be on sale, meaning that there's nothing inside. And so yes, they are indeed empty. When that's perhaps maybe there's a way that that they're assessed that I don't know about, and you know, feel free to correct me if that's the case. Furthermore, you know, it seems to be that even if there is a differential in how the properties are assessed, that does not automatically mean that these cities are going to either cut services or put further tax burdens on residential homeowners or other tax-paying entities. That's completely up to the city or municipality they're in. They could either choose to borrow if they want to, or they could, you know, if need be, they could stop future projects from happening, not necessarily cut services. So I don't think that this is really an accurate statement. I think that this is, a lot of it is just simply projection, and for that, I vote against this.
Thank you, Supervisor Deputy. Supervisor Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My comments aren't that I'm against this at all necessarily, but I just have some questions about it, some concerns about it. First of all, when you do a referendum, one reason a lot of referendums don't get on a ballot is because they can't agree on how it's worded, and how a referendum is worded can lead people a certain way. This is a very leading question here, obviously based one side. And again, I'm not taking sides, I'm just stating the facts here. For example, resulting in a substantial shift in taxes. What does that mean? Is there a number involved with that? What is dark store versus no dark store? What does that mean to a $100,000 house in Winnebago County? We have no idea. Don't have any information on that. I just think that as a county board, to be putting out a referendum, we shouldn't be trying to lead the voters on how to vote, and that's just what this does. And another concern I would have a little bit is, you know, the county and the municipalities in the county have done a pretty good job lately of the business environment, attracting economic development. We have money that the county gives out for that. We have a committee that deals with that. What does this say if it passes in that regard towards trying to attract economic development into our county? That this would give the perception, I think, of Winnebago County doesn't want business. They're anti-business, I should say, that they're anti-business. So I would just be real careful with this. I just don't think this is worded right. It's very leading one way, and a referendum question should not be doing that. A referendum question should be real straight, and then people that are proponents of one side or the other can certainly campaign on that question. But I don't like this question at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rasmussen. Supervisor Lenz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, coming into this, had to do a little bit of homework. It was kind of hard finding information out there that supported the keeping of the loophole. I did reach out to multiple resources at the state level, and they were not, I'm trying to choose my word and appropriately, they did not come out as completely supporting the loophole. But what I did find was an argument that in regards to assessing, when it comes to residential, they will assess other houses in the area that may be vacant. I do want to point out that that's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison. When it comes to retail, there's a whole supply chain that creates wear and tear on the city in regards to the transportation of goods into the business, as well as the patrons coming in as also, which adds additional cost to the system, to the cities or the municipals. This is not necessarily reflected when, comparatively, when it comes to a residential house. It just doesn't draw as much wear on the city. So because I was unable to find much information supporting this tax loophole, and the best that I was able to find is kind of an apples to oranges comparison. I will support this resolution.
Thank you, Supervisor Lenz. Supervisor Spellman.
I do want to point out that this is referred to as a loophole, as a tax loophole, and a way for businesses to get out of paying fair taxes. And so to address a concern about it potentially not bringing new businesses to the area, I would say that we probably don't want businesses to come to this area if they're coming to take advantage of a tax loophole. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Spellman. Seeing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and vote. We will do a roll call vote. Vote aye if you recommend approval for the referendum. Vote no if you don't. Supervisor Fari? And that resolution passes 28-7. Moving on down to the next resolution, resolution number 020-042-018. Honor the life and service of Peggy Ann Lautenschlager. Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of resolution number 20-042018.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Supervisor Lack?
Yes, on line 8, her husband's last name does not have an E.
So that's on line item number 8, where it says, whereas Peg Lautenschlager and Bill Ripple, it should be R-I-P-P-L without the E. Correct?
Correct.
That's what you're saying, Supervisor Locke? So if we can make that friendly adjustment, friendly amendment? Okay. Any other discussion? We'll do a voice. Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, for those of you who don't know who Peg Lautenschlager was, and the reason why I brought this resolution forward was she was a good friend, and I'm sure many of you do know her for her service that she has done for the state of Wisconsin. And actually, she was the first woman to serve as district attorney for Winnebago County. So I think, given that all the work she's done, I thought it would be a good idea to honor her life and service, what she's done for the area here.
Thank you, Supervisor Wojciechowski. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on down to the final resolution. Resolution number 021-042-018. Amend section 8.0 of the rules of the Winnebago County Board of Supervisors to go paperless. Supervisor Wojciechowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the approval of resolution number, number 21-042018.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Discussion. Supervisor Wojciechowski and then Supervisor Wainwright.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make some comments and give some information, especially for the new people on the board, and then hopefully answer some questions that might be brought up prior. So just for some background information, there was discussions of this during the budget session, just loose discussions, and we've been talking about this on the IS committee for the last year and a half, I would say, about how we wanted to address the situation of going paperless and the costs associated with it. For some background information on the actual numbers, I did include a little bit in the resolution itself, but that is not the whole picture. So I wanted to give a better estimate so the newer people or people who might have forgotten what the cost was have a better idea of kind of the reasons why we decided to bring this forward. So based off numbers that we got from the county clerk, one of the numbers that we got, a couple of them actually, and I don't have this paper for everyone, I'm sorry, but if you'd like to take a look at it at some point, you're welcome to. So in 2014, so these costs have probably risen since then. The monthly estimated cost to prepare and mail out committee agendas and minutes was roughly $2,500 for each month, and this included staff time, the cost of the copies, and the cost of the paper and the envelopes, and also postage. So this is sending out committee agendas and minutes and all the work included to do that. So if you times that by 12, it comes out to roughly $30,000 a year. For monthly county board packets, so for these meetings, the packets that we get for this, for the cost of the copies, the materials, and the postage, it came out to roughly $900 per month times 12 is about $11,000. So what we are seeing in about 2014 is we were spending almost $41,000, dollars a year just on staff time, printing, postage, and everything else associated with that, just for county board agendas and packets. I don't believe this includes packets that we send out to community members who had requested those. And usually this doesn't include if we had an amendment, so we'd have to resend out packets and make sure we get the amended copies. In 2017, we had 25 supervisors and 7 others who were receiving hard copies of county board packets, and 25 supervisors and 28 others in public who were receiving county board agendas. So that kind of gives an idea on what we were giving out and who was receiving things. I bring up that about the people who are actually receiving that because this kind of ties into the whole reason about getting the iPads. I wasn't here when we got them, but from being on IS committee and hearing discussion and comments from people who were on the committee or who were on the county board at the time of receiving these iPads, from what I got, the intended purpose was to reduce using paper and reduce postage, because you can easily access the resolutions and everything on the iPads. I also want to bring up, because I know someone had mentioned to Patty about why it wasn't voted on by IS committee. This was originally supposed to be brought up during the rules meeting last week. Our committee meets on Tuesday, so that was the day after when the resolutions were required. Thus, we didn't have enough time, and we've been going back and forth trying to find a good solution. So this is something we've actually really looked at. This isn't just last-second resolution. When I sent out an email to all our committee members, I asked if they wanted to have their name on it, and I asked to have the name by this certain date, which was last Monday, so we could send it to this meeting. And Rachel was the only one who got to me back in time. So you can ask the other people on the committee if they support it. We looked at the resolution and made changes, and I sent it to them, the final copy. Everyone seemed to have agreed with this resolution as a committee. We just didn't vote on it, but we still decided to bring it forward to this meeting. There will probably be other questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Patty is here if you have any questions directed towards her. Other than that, I will yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wojciechowski. Next speaker is Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a tough one. Politics is the art of finding a problem where one does not exist, misdiagnosing it, and finding a remedy that is wrong to fix that non-existent problem. Surely that can be said about this resolution. Last week we took an oath to uphold the Constitution that has the Bill of Rights, that guarantees us the right to speak, learn, operate. However, this resolution we have before us tonight is flawed. When you have bad information in, you have bad outcomes out. This resolution is flawed. It has all kinds of errors in it. Didn't come from a committee at all. Look at line 9. It says, according to the budget, the county clerk's office spent roughly $5,000 on printing and postage. Look at the budget. Doesn't say that. Tonight we hear $40,000. Which is it? You look on line 14. It says September 10th, 2014, the Information System Committee recommended da-da-da. You check the official minutes on the county board website, and you found there was no information systems meeting that date. Got the wrong date. Line 17 says they'll be used 100% by April 2016. This is April 2018, and looking around tonight just now, I think Mrs. Smith can help me over here. I think 4 people have them in front of them right now. 4. 27, going paperless would promote sustainability and fiscal responsibility. Oh, really? At what cost? Sometimes we have unintended consequences. There are all kinds of ways to save money. Where were the people so concerned about saving money when we voted $16,000 to plant our butts on these new chairs? $16,000. Did they rise up in opposition to that to save money? No. This is a feel-good resolution, and they're fine. And I commend the authors of this resolution for speaking up. That's terrific. So I have to be very careful. I'm not in any way personalizing or criticizing them. They have every right to do what they're doing. I just wish to speak on a different aspect of this. Where are the amendments to cut spending at budget time? Look back, see who offered resolutions to save money. That's the time to submit resolutions to add or subtract things that are going to either or increase the tax rate or levy or decrease it. The board does a great job in carefully considering every resolution that comes before us. We're supposed to work together, support one another, help one another. Why can't we celebrate diversity? I like paper copies, to be honest with you. That's my working style, developed over a long life, dedicated to learning and education. I like reading a newspaper, not a Kindle. I like holding it. For 34 years, I worked as a teacher. Most of that time, I taught special ed. My training was in special ed. I spent a great deal of time researching and learning how kids learn, how adults learn, how we all learn. They're all different kinds of styles. Some people are visual learners. Some people are auditory learners. Some learn better by doing. We use different techniques to teach. We reach out. We help people who learn different ways. This board voted $10,000 some years ago to put a hearing loop in here for those who have problems. We could have saved money, said, move up forward, move closer. You can hear, listen harder. You can, hear better. Visual, auditory, tactile. We use all of these modems to learn. We read a lot of information to learn. We write down comments, suggestions. Working together, we solve problems. I like when I get my packet, I spread it out at the table, every resolution. I read through them, and I write things on them. I call up department heads or others to ask them questions, and that's the way I do things. I may not do things just the way you do. We might learn and act and think differently. Once again, I would respectfully suggest to everyone here, diversity is not a bad thing. The resolution that before us says, the only way I can function is to use a computer. Nonsense. Why not celebrate diversity? Why not respect individual differences? There's more than one way to think and learn. What about the golden rule? Treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. People want to be respected, understood, and accommodated. Why take away the tools that I need to do my job properly? We need to work together. We need to build bridges, not walls. This resolution is not something that can unite us. The my way or the highway thing is wrong. I don't bring in a controversial topic, but on this issue, paper or machine, I'm pro-choice. If you want to use your machine, use it. But let me use my paper. Paper, for God's sake, is one of the leading industries in Neenah, in Menasha, in Oshkosh. We love the paper industry. And we're saying we're going to save all kinds of money by getting rid of paper. Okay, let's tell that to the constituents that work at the paper mills. Get rid of paper, we say. Ever heard of recycling? I respectfully say that. Are there better ways to save money than hurting members of this body? Yes. Each of us has a variety of tools to learn and to function. Now we're asked to disarm ourselves. I call this, forcefully, the nuclear option. Don't do that, please. I don't believe anyone here, the sponsors or anyone, wants to hurt me or you. That's what I mean by the law of unintended consequences. 2 more points. This really ticks me off. Really? Yes, it does. What ticks you off? I'll tell you. Line 46. Accommodations will be made for those who claim a disability, health, and/or medical problem. Accommodations? Who the heck are you to accommodate me? It's a disability unless I use the computer? Come on now. It's a violation of everything I've been taught about respecting people and respecting people with different needs and different ways of doing things. I am not going to wear a badge that says I'm disabled. If I don't want to use the computer, it's none of your darn business why I choose that. I'd be glad to talk to you individually and explain why. The last point is this. I read on social media last number of weeks some comments about this board having new members. And wonderful thing. I think that's great. But the comment was written in such a way, oh, we're getting rid of some of those old people and got young people. Ooh, that's terrific, isn't it? We need young people. We need new blood. We need new ideas. But just because we're older, I'll tell you the truth. I'm 59 plus shipping and handling. But don't you dare consider my age as a disability. I know I'm supposed to address my comments to the chair, so Shiloh, sorry, I'm getting upset here. Guess which relative talked to me this weekend?
I'm guessing Aunt Tilly.
No, it was Uncle
I was
Willie.
going to ask about it tonight.
Uncle Willie. He's a close relative, too. He told me, don't look down on old people when I was telling him about this. And this is what he said. And I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I will. What the heck? I've never been shy before. He said, young man, and I love it. He called me young man. He said, the older we get, the less life in prison serves as a deterrent. So I ask you, please, consider this as a matter of fairness, and we'll work together on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Winger. I'll now call on Supervisor Eisen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to present line 20 of this resolution, in which the makers of the resolution support going paperless by stating that 25 county board supervisors accepted hard copies. That's 2/3 of the board. And what business is it to eliminate hard copies when 2/3 of the supervisors request them and use them? My second comment relates to the additional unintended consequences of digitalization and paperless approaches. And for this, I would refer you to the Winnebago County website. I would refer you to the agendas and the minutes for Winnebago County Board meetings, as well as the committee meetings. And you know what you're going to find? You're going to find there are no minutes, there are no agendas that are older than January 1st, 2015. From 1998 to 2015, there is no availability of these records. That's what you're going to get if you're going down this paperless track. For my own personal situation, I happen to have copies of the minutes going back through the term that I am on the board. So I wouldn't have any problem accessing it. but nobody else is going to do it unless they go to the county clerk and get it. Or, as I had 2 years ago, I went to the finance director, and he downloaded the 2002 budget book, which I was able to access from home. So I think you got to slow this paperless train down, and a good way to do it would be to withdraw this motion, or at least put it to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Eisen. Next speaker, Supervisor Fari.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start out by commending Supervisor Wingren for his eloquent comments. I'm going to add to that a little bit. Let's look at line 27. It says this agenda, along with the appropriate attachments, that would be your resolutions, shall be emailed. Now, I live in the country. I don't have access to all of the internet services people do in the city. I have a wireless system, a cell phone wireless system. So you're familiar with the term data. I pay for the data I receive, and I pay for the data I send out. I get 12 gigabytes that I'm paying for. That costs me a little over $60 a month. If I go over that, it's another 15 bucks. So if I accept this position, you're going to email them to me. I got it on my computer, on the desk. Now what do I do with it? Now I have to print it off, because I need a hard copy to be at this meeting tonight to represent District 30, which I was duly elected for. I feel the county has an obligation to give me the information so I can vote properly. Okay, I got it, I got to print it off. So now my printer's probably 10 years old, so I'm probably going to have a different printer. I have to supply the paper. I have to supply the ink. And now I have my hard copies. I hate to put our new chairman on the spot, but I have to do this. If I put that on my expense report, are you going to approve it?
I cannot promise that at this time.
There is your answer. We're shifting, this gentleman is suggesting we shift the cost of printing, and I understand the postage side of it, to the supervisors who represent their districts. And we're going to communicate with us by email. That's okay if it's just an agenda, something that's simple to print off, one page, fine. But these resolutions in the packets could be a lot of printing. Perhaps our vice chair could display that later if he chooses to comment on it further. I really seriously urge you to defeat this. This is not the best thing to do. If we're going to promote these iPads, that's fine, but let's do it over time, integrate that by a voluntary system, and I think we're all going to be a lot happier. This resolution, and Mr. Wingren put it properly, is just cramming it right down our throat. I want to emphasize once again, those supervisors who live in the rural districts of this county do not have the Wi-Fi service that's available to the people in these cities or the incorporated municipalities. We have a different system, and I have to pay for that. I don't have unlimited, I don't have none of that stuff. So bear that in mind. You're putting a financial burden on us, and I think that's wrong. So I urge you, I really urge you not to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Farr. I'll call on Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this was a lot of discussion on this, and I thank, as I call Aaron, as I call Mojo, because I can never pronounce his last name. I thank him for coming forward and putting this out. And it had pretty much everything we wanted in it, but unfortunately, there's some wording in there that does need to be changed. And I would propose that we would pull this and send it back to committee to be rewritten and represented at our June meeting. That way we can get in. The other thing I would request is that the board members, and part of this was, again, to save paper, the only board members that will get the hard copies mailed to them are the ones that request it. Otherwise, everything will be available online and emailed. So if you wanted hard copies, you don't have to be old or feeble or anything to get it. Just well, that's what it says. That's why we got to change it. Unfortunate language. But to anybody that feels that they need to have the hard copies, request that it be mailed to them. Otherwise, all the copies will go out via email, and that's it. That makes sense. It should accommodate everybody.
Thank you, Supervisor Smith. Supervisor Wojciechowski, do you want to speak, or do you want to withdraw the mention? You want to speak?
I'll speak.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to address some of the points that were brought up, just to clarify some of them and maybe clarify some misconceptions in the resolution. So, first of all, in lines 9 through 11, when it talks about the 2018 executive budget and it lists the previous years about what was approved. When it talks about $5,000 annually, that is just specifically for printing and postage. You can look at each year, and if you go to, this is just the county clerk's budget. In their section, it will say how much they spend on printing and postage. And as it says in the resolution, this does not include the cost of labor, paper and postage from other departments/committees. So that's why that price is different from the one that was included in this estimate, which includes all of it. So that's where I got the $41,000 from. That was based off the numbers from 2014 that I was given by the county clerk, and those numbers do include the staff time, the printing and the postage, and anything else within all the committees and the county board. So that's where the confusion, or maybe where that was seen in the numbers. When it talks about on September 10th, 2014, that could be maybe it was wrong wording. I wasn't on the committee at the time, but based on the paper I was given, the IS committee had made recommendations on September 10th, 2014. That's when this was issued, I suppose. I don't know if it actually ever made it to the full board or if it was just within the committee, but basically what the recommendations were had to do with the appropriate use of technology, and it laid out some recommendations for use of the iPads. And in there is, they had hoped and recommended that we would eventually move to paper. I do have the copy. Maybe we can, if anyone wants to look at that. But this is what I was given from members on the committee who had been there before I was on there. So that was going based off that. Some of the other notes. This isn't taking money out of the budget. This resolution doesn't do anything with money. It still keeps the money that we approved in 2017 for the budget. So that money's still in there. So I suppose that it would go back to the revenues or whatever if it wasn't spent. But this isn't taking money out of the budget. It's just simply changing the lines as it states in the be it resolved. And really all it does is it takes the exact wording, except instead of mail, it's emailed. So the reason why the one in there, the 45 through 47 about medical accommodations, because when talking to Mr. Bodner about accommodations, because we certainly do want to accommodate people who maybe do have visual impairments or need a physical copy in front of them for medical problems, we put it in there as a way to not limit them from doing that. Certainly, if you want to add more accommodations for technological uses, if you, for example, don't have the internet or computer, because I know some people don't, and it can be expensive, you can add that. We found not to add it just because at the time no one had brought it up to us specifically at the committee, as far as I wasn't told at the committee when writing it. The iPads, from what I was just told, were purchased about 3 years ago. I think we have had enough time to be able to integrate and fully use the iPads. And as to Mr. Smith's point about changing it, we had talked about this in committee, and my point was that changing it to allow anyone to opt in for the packets would pretty much defeat the purpose of the resolution if the intent is to reduce the cost of paper and postage. That would kind of defeat the purpose because then most people would opt in. One of the other points made about 25 people receiving the packets. I know some people had problems or didn't even know that you had to specifically request to not receive packets. I was one of those people, so I was included in that 25 because I was not aware that you had to specifically request to opt out of receiving packets. I've since done that and have tried to utilize the iPad. The last point I would make is that I wouldn't say this is a diversity issue because it's not saying you can't have paper copies. You're more than welcome to bring paper copies into the room. It should be expected that you should bring them in, and I don't mean to be disingenuous, but I believe that we should be able to provide our own copies. But it does have the accommodations for people who truly feel that they would not be able to deal with the resolution of going paperless. You are welcome to bring your own paper copies. I know I'm on the IS committee and I was the secretary. I would usually bring a pen and pad of paper to write notes on because it's easier than typing at the moment. You are able to do that. This does not stop you from doing that. It simply is trying to reduce the cost of paper and postage, and $50,000 a year might not seem like a lot, but I personally think it is, and it could be used in other ways, or it could go back to our revenues. With that, I will yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wojciechowski. Supervisor Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm kind of torn on this one myself, mainly because when I first got my iPad, I was with Patty and Jennifer many times because I knew nothing about it. Right now, what just happened for this new election, we have 9 new individuals. They're all pretty young. So a lot of them already know the iPads and so on and so forth. Where people like myself and other ones, no, I knew nothing. Between Patty and Jennifer, because my wife was working full time, there's times that even when I have a meeting in Oshkosh, I'd go in and see them first because I had a problem with this or I had a problem with that. And the nice thing about it is that they're right there to help you. So if you're kind of afraid of using an iPad because your knowledge just isn't quite there. Them two, and there was some gentleman, I don't remember what his name was right there to help me through. Then when my wife retired from what she was doing as a principal, she helped me do even more. And I still have troubles with it. But the point is, if you could take this back and kind of go with the people that want it, let them have it. The people that, I don't know if you want to call it being afraid to use it or just what, that's fine. We pay the bill. We spend money on other stuff that is no big deal, all right? But as we have new board members, they might opt to, no, I want the computer, all right? So now you're taking it back. So every time we have a new election or somebody resigns from the board, we get somebody in place to give them that opportunity. And I'm going to almost bet within 15 years, 20 max, it's going to be all iPad. But that's my feelings. So, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. Next is Supervisor Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I was initially for this, and I know a couple of years ago, all the courthouses around Wisconsin went paperless. I can say that in my experience has been fantastic, not having to make 500 copies of everything you need to give all the different parties. But after hearing some of the discussion today, I would be against it as stated. I get that there's reasons why I personally like hard copies. Whenever anything's emailed to me and I want to read it, I want to make notes on it, I print off the hard copies. It's been said by some supervisors today that that's really just passing on the costs from that the county board would have to spend to their own individual having to spend money on paper and ink and toner or whatever. So I would propose an amendment on line 28 to add after the board meeting to indicate unless a paper copy is requested. I think Supervisor Wojciechowski indicated that you can opt out of receiving paper copies, and I thought about that. I didn't know that you could opt out of it, but I think if we're gonna go paperless, I think that's where the majority of places are going now. I think it should be, the onus should be on the supervisor to say, look, you can request a paper copy for any reason. I think we can then avoid all of the discussion about accommodations being made. If there's just a request by any supervisor to request a hard copy, I think that would be appropriate for those supervisors like myself that prefer the hard copies instead of the electronic copies. So I would propose that amendment.
Thank you, Supervisor Hogan. So, was there a second to the amendment? Second. So there's a motion and a second. So just to reread it, it's on line 28 where it says the board meeting, simply the additional verbiage, unless a paper copy is requested. The addition of that wording is the amendment. So there is a motion and a second. So Supervisor Lenz, this would be specifically on that amendment.
Yeah, it's fitting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've dealt with the challenge of paperless in my industry, both in the warehouse as well as in conference rooms and in the many meetings that businesses have these days. What I've found is I agree that we at least at minimum need this amendment because I want to see the board, the supervisors on the board, to be most effective using the tools that they're most comfortable with. I don't want to see folks here struggling to scroll through because they have a Windows device and now they're forced to use an iPad to get their information. However, I think it needs more than just a simple amendment. I want to hear more about what we're going to do if we have bad Wi-Fi or if we live in an area where there's bad connections. So I actually do not support the amendment. I would support something more to bring it back to committee for further discussion.
Are you making a motion to refer it to?
I will, well, do we need to vote on the amendment before I can make a motion?
That motion would take precedence.
Okay, I would make a motion to return it to committee because I want to hear more about, first I want to change the verbiage so that folks can make the request to get their information as they're most effective. Second, I want to hear the game plan on what to do if Wi-Fi goes down, and we need to bring up our PDFs in this boardroom.
Okay, so there was a motion, was there a second? Okay, so there's a motion and a second specifically to refer this resolution to the Information Systems Committee. Discussion in regards to the referral to the committee. Supervisor Fari, discussion in regards specifically to the referral.
No, sir.
Thank you. Supervisor Wojciechowski, specifically to the referral, any discussion?
Sure. I don't have a problem with it being sent back to committee. My problem is, thank you for actually giving us some direction, because when I've been talking about this, we haven't had many people at our committees. Actually, I think we've had one over these 2 years from the public to speak on this issue, and it's been an ongoing process. I would definitely like to see people who are making these recommendations, please come to our committee meetings when we talk about this, just so, it would, to avoid, going through this discussion about changes, because if no one comes to the meetings, we're just gonna go based off what we've been talking about, and that's kind of how we get to this problem. Based on the discussion, it sounds like it's probably gonna go back to committee. I would just ask for more recommendations. Emails are fine, or any type of information on what you would like to be seen changed, because that would help us instead of just having us try to figure out what everyone wants. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wojciechowski. Next speaker is Supervisor Wallen in regards to the referral to the committee.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Wallen. Supervisor Wingren.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barney Fife said it best, nip it, nip it, nip it. Don't send it back to the committee, defeat it.
Thank you, Supervisor Wingren. And please thank Uncle Willie as well for his advice. Supervisor Norton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support sending it back to committee. I'm going to ask the committee to specifically find out information of what counties already have this policy where you only use an iPad or electronic device like we have. It is my understanding that Door County, a rural county, already uses them and has this rule in effect where you're on their county board, you must use their iPad or whatever like device they have. So I was asked that you investigate this, not only just for what Door County has, if they have a specific rule, and what they did when they had specific questions, because it's a rural county. I'm sure people had questions like Supervisor Afari about Wi-Fi access and access to it. So when you send this back to the committee, I would like to know what other counties have been doing, if they like what we're doing, and how they handle the questions we have asked tonight.
Thank you, Supervisor Norton. Next speaker is Supervisor Finch.
It just happened tonight that the computers didn't work right away. So therefore, we come into a meeting, and we got a lot of work to do, and since whomever took the clerk's office and moved it over in Otter Street, we need paper to get this meeting over with, because the electricity went out on here, and we had no iPad or anything. And now the clerk's office is going to have to run somewhere to get copies for us. So, I mean, it's a good idea to a point, but the more I thought about it, we should have some sort of second. And so that's why I'm glad it's going back to committee, and let committee look at both sides of the fence. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Finch. So there's still a vote. So seeing no further discussion, we will vote on the motion to refer back to the Information Systems Committee. We'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor for the referral, say aye. Vote aye. Opposed, vote nay. And that motion carries 26-9, so it is referred to the Information Systems Committee. Okay, so that completes our agenda and resolutions for tonight. But before we finish it up and entertain a motion to adjourn, some of you may or may not know, but this is actually our Corporation Counsel, John Bodner's last county board meeting with us. He will be retiring from the county very shortly. And John, I just want to say on behalf of the county, on behalf of the county board, certainly on behalf of myself personally, since you're the only corporation counsel I've known on this board, just want to thank you for your service to this county and to the county board. And thank you for keeping us on track. Please, by all means.
Thank you for letting me serve you all these years, and but I'm looking forward to retirement. I probably will be back on May 1st, just because I don't have anything better to do. Actually, Mary Ann's got a jury trial that day, and if it goes through, she's going to need me to do the county board meeting. But that's just a special orders of business meeting. So I probably will actually be back on May 1st, but after that, I'll be gone. So thank you very much, and thank you for the nice comments.
Thank you, guys. Okay, that brings us to the end of the agenda, so I'll call on Supervisor Roble for a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Roble?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move that we adjourn until May 1st for a special order of business meeting.
For a second? Motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.